Shalom Habarim. Greetings and welcome, y'all. So here's the thing now. As a master of your life and your destiny, right? It's real interesting because ideally what's going on is, like right now, you're actually able to maintain an operational mode that is victorious and above and beyond and overpowering, legitimately winning, right? While all these different things in life and the interactions with other humans and so on, like there's a lot of different things going on in life, right? Between personal life, business, different people, agreements, negotiations, all this type of stuff that we have in human interactions. See, yet as a master, right, someone who's an aspiring master of their life and their destiny, you have to be able to maintain a clear, magical, seeing overview of what's going on. And if you maintain a clear overview as a magi or a seer, right, you actually can understand and comprehend a very, very important thing. And that actually is that why things are how they are. So, like, beyond just knowing what life cycles you're in, and remember, these change every 3 hours and 25 minutes, right? Every 3 hours, 25 minutes. Every 3 hours, every 3.5 days, every 52 days, right? And every 7 years, and so on and so forth. So if you have a clear overview of the life cycles that you're in right now, right? That you're actually in, and that are going on in your life. And remember, some of these are like universally applicable in certain areas of the world, like the short lunar units that are based on the tides, or the long 3.5 day lunar units that are based on the date of the new moon or the full moon, and so on. In certain parts of the world, there's some life cycles that are operating that are the same for every person, even though every person has different life cycle, because every person has a different birthday. Now, here's a real interesting thing that I just noticed. In the event that anything happens in life, and it could be something like an associate or someone who you trusted to a certain degree, and then they gave you their word on something, and then they start to draw back on their word. This type of thing. Have you ever had this happen? Heaven forbid. They say you're supposed to keep your word, right? So now, here's the thing. Like, anything that can happen in life and everything that can be problematic, it doesn't happen for no reason. In other words, that there's an explanation to and why and how come everything goes on in life as it goes on, and why it is the way it is. And if we can comprehend and see through this, we have like an ultimate victory mode of operating and living. What I'm talking about is, as you go through life, right? It's almost like understanding the fact, like, you know what the outside temperature is, and so you know that it's hot and that it's going to be like this and like that. Or you know what the outside temperature is, and because of that, you know that it's going to be cool, and so you can be cool, and you know why it's cool and not hot, okay? It may sound simple, yet this is an example of what I'm talking about. And it's very important to have this comprehension because of the following. Because anything that happens, it is nothing is left to any type of chance or random coincidence. Actually, everything that happens in your life even what you make happen, even when you can foresee the future because of wisdom, and even make it a certain way because of your wise actions right now, and even in the practice of self-mastery, right? And by the practice of self-mastery, what you actually get is that you can clearly see through it all. And this is really good because it makes life a lot better and a lot easier and a lot lighter. Because if something goes wrong, or starting to, look, nothing actually can go wrong in life as long as you're circumspect and you monitor the life cycles you're in. Because there's a time when something can go wrong and there's a time when it can't. And knowing the difference is key. And to know the knowledge of this difference is attained by being a magi, seeing clearly, having wisdom, practically applying it, and actually having an overview of the life cycles that you're in. Because the life cycles that you're in, they explain and they show like the parameters of what's going on at what time in your life. And they will explain to you why things are how they are. Now think about this for a second. What if we could see so clearly in life, if we could see so clearly that we would know why the things that are going on, even the things that we are compelled to make happen as part of making our divine free will intelligently obedient to divine inspiration and wisdom, and practically applying it, and thus actually mastering our life and our destiny, right? Like, if we, even beyond what explaining what we actually make happen, all of that, inasmuch as we also have a divine free will and we have the power to change our lives and our destiny as we go, even how we go as we go, all of that is actually very, very, very quietly, though visibly and comprehensibly, governed by the cycles of life. So what I'm saying is that if you can zoom out and clearly see through all of what's going on in your life and know why, because of the life cycles that you're in, it explains to you why that is happening. And then there's not any any problems. So okay, think about this for a second. Somebody gives you, I have an example from today. Somebody gives you their word on something. And then all of a sudden, they start drawing back on it. Damn, that's not good. Well, wait a minute. I know why that's going on. Listen. It's like this. A man of God, right, going through eternal life as a magi, a seer, he's working on legitimate things, right? Some of these things have to do with legit, mutually beneficent, righteous human interactions and relationships, and the things that are produced thereby, cooperation, right? Things like this. And one of the things involved is, honesty, trustworthiness, hopefully, all these types of things. Well, what if something goes wrong and someone starts to, anything that can go wrong in life between human beings, it doesn't go wrong randomly. There is no coincidence to anything that happens. It is all systematically a result of how life is cyclical, and the way that it is right now in your life and in everybody's life actually is because of the life cycles that every single person that exists is in right now. Knowing this, think about this. This is one of the greatest things to comprehend in life, because it gives you absolute comfort, absolute security, and a superior and ultimately superior clear vision and comprehension of why everything is how it is, and also the ability to make everything the best that it can possibly be on an ongoing basis. So I'm going to give you an example of this. I have an agreement with somebody who gave me their word on something that's important. I got this, I got that. There's a lot of stuff going on, right? Well, I know why things are how they are. I know why one person says this now and why this is the case, because I can see through it all with wisdom. So this then is really interesting. It's also comforting. Why? Because look, it's almost like there's a machine. Normally the machine runs perfectly, but all of a sudden it's not running right, and that's not good. Okay? Well, you're like a technician who can see through and completely, let's say sufficiently to a very high degree, can see through and knows exactly how this machine works and why it's not running right and can fix it. And this is like the approach to life too, as a master, right? Of your life and your destiny, okay? So it's like we are superiorly, divinely, preemptively provided with a victory and a preparation to win in any situation because of having wisdom, right? And retaining it and practically applying it, okay? So this is like a person who goes through life who, like, everything actually gets turned into the best possible that it can be. But see, in order to do this, you have to have prudence, and you have to have the ability to kind of distance yourself and zoom out and neutrally observe what is going on in your life a little bit at times, like right now. Now, it's almost like a person driving a car and then something starts rattling and it's not working right. Well, you have to stop, right, and see what's wrong, and and then it can be fixed. So it's the same thing in life. We got to actually, we have to be able to zoom out and look at what's going on from a distance and then see, okay, look, that's why this person is saying this. I know exactly why. I know why this person that just called me said what he said, even though the other day he said this and that, right? I know why this is going on. I know why that's going on, yada, yada, yada. But see, imagine how helpful it is to be able to see through life and know why everything is how it is in your life right now, and even why and how come you're even compelled to make it this way, that way, etc., right? This is what we're talking about. So it's like having a technical, complete overview to a certain degree of how everything works in life, that then gives you the ability to look at it and to see why it's actually the case. Well, if I know why things are going the way they are, first of all, that is good because I know the reasons and I know what's actually going on, and so I can also sort of remain on top of things, right? Or I can remain, and I can also remain like victorious, and I can work out another strategy that will lead to the accomplishment of whatever objective I have. But see, in order to do this, you have to be calm too. It's like you have to be calm, receptive for divine, intelligent information and inspiration, right? And communication and guidance and instruction and divine help too. And then what happens is you win. So like whatever looks like a catastrophe, don't worry about it. First of all, zoom out and look at it from above. How do you do that? Well, there's a life cycle calendar in my pack. I know exactly what's going on right now. I know why my associate, is saying this and that, whereas the other day he said this and that, right? Look, watch. So you're looking at a calendar right now with a page for today. What you see on top there are the short lunar units in the form of the tides. And then below, we've got an overview of the 3.5 day negative lunar unit that's going on today and changing later. And then I have the life cycles, including the annual and the overall, mapped out here and today's date. But so this is like having a map, right, that literally explains to me what is going on in the universe right now in terms of the life cycles that are going on right now. And what's even more interesting, and y'all should comprehend this, though you may not be exactly where I am on the earth, right? Though you may be in a different country or somewhere else, listen, based on being in similar parts of the world, what's actually going on is that there are life cycles that are part of this heavens and earth plane system, such as the short and the long lunar units, right? The short and the long lunar units that are actually, they're like the same for everybody in this area. Just like at one beach, there could be thousands of people, but the tide at that place, everybody, sees that tide, and that tide is happening there, going in or out, etc., rising, falling, right? So it's actually interesting. The information that I'm sharing is actually for the better benefit of all of humanity. Now, my exact location is unique to me, and so is yours to you. Yet, one thing that is interesting is how you have the same universal system of the cycles of life that go on in the life of every human being, though a little bit differently every time, because everybody's birthday is different, even if it's by a couple seconds or milliseconds. But for example, the lunar units, right, that go on right now, like right now, for example, everybody in this area is subject to the same sort of life cycle in terms of the short lunar unit and the long lunar unit right now. It's just the same for all of us, because you're in the same area where the same natural law applies through the movement of the heavenly bodies and creation. So it's actually like, it's as if what I'm announcing and sharing here a lot is actually important, and these are things that you should know. Because if you don't know this, then how are you going to actually live a very good life if you don't know how life works, really? Some people, somehow, and this actually seems to pertain to the majority of humans, we see like examples of how, some are extremely financially wealthy, others plus minus, etc. Well, everything that goes on is not a coincidence. It is not a coincidence that this person has this, that person has that. It's not left to chance. Nothing is left to chance. The only thing that could be classified as in any way, shape, or form related to this idea of random or coincidence, the only thing that's like that is actually our free will, because you do have a choice, and I have free will that gives me the ability to make a decision that is basically either wise or, plus wise or minus wise. That's actually it. So the only thing in creation that seems to be subject to, and even actually changed by the most powerful method of determining how creation and life in the world and earth, human and life activity in the heavens and the earth plane and the universe is of course God's will and our free will that He's given us. And so it's important and imperative that we make it intelligently obedient to legitimate divine inspiration, guidance, and wisdom. That having been said, what you have now is this. For example, right, I'm standing here right now. I can make a decision to go that way and do this, and I know that I shouldn't, right? I can make a decision to go that way and do that, and I know that that's better. So what I'm going to do right now, and this is the same, it's like the same in life for everybody, is do the right thing that I know is, first of all, wise and safe, because if I do this, I am safe. Whereas if I do that, it could be taking unnecessary risks. okay? So like, you see that this decision-making process that we do have a free will. And that's probably the most powerful tool that God gave us and that humanity has, wherewith humanity can actually shape and say, sustainably and increasingly manifest the best possible destiny for all of itself and creation, hopefully in accordance with God's will. Because the free will is the thing that actually makes it possible to have good or evil, or even good or bad, just based on your decisions and the results that are instantly produced. Now, if we zoom out a little further, what's also very interesting is the fact that have you ever asked yourself, why did this happen? Why is this person doing this? What can how can I master this and overcome this and win here and win there, right? Well, to be legitimately victorious according to divine permission and what's favorable to God and what's wise too, and that will be in accordance with that, you have to have a circumspect situational overview in your life. And having that, it's almost like a person standing somewhere, there's a massive thunderstorm with lightning and it looks dangerous, and the person knows, yeah, don't worry about it, it's going to pass, and then it's going to be blue skies and sunny again in like 10 minutes, okay? It's the same type of a logic, just more minute and more into the details of how it all works. If you had a map in your hands of what's going on in the cosmos, I think actually is defined as home. So like this area, the world around me right now, I know what's going on in the cosmos right now, or in the environment of the heavens and the earth plane, and even within my human being, right? I know why what is going on, okay? And that now, see, it's almost like you're looking at a machine and you know how it works. And because you know how it works, you can keep it working good, because if this happens, you know that this is because of that. If that happens, you know that's because of that. And you know how to fix it. But see, there's one important point here in addition that I have to mention. Seems like you start to gain this ability and practice this more as you become more mature. We have to have this inner calm so that we can actually take a deep breath when things get, like whatever looks like a catastrophe, whether great or small. Don't worry about it. I know why that's happened. Seeking doesn't even have to happen. Like something's going wrong. Hold on a minute. Take a deep breath, zoom out, and gain a magical overview. I know why what's going on is going on. Really? Yes. And so then I can make the right thing go on. Gee, that is pretty good, huh? Imagine living your life where nothing can go wrong. Because when anything seeks to starts to kind of get rickety or whatever, hey, it could be your cooperation with others, whatever it is, business, personal, health life, if there's anything that's sort of like becoming problematic or even at all in any way, shape, or form, like, what do you call it? Getting tricky or not working, or if there's any problem whatsoever, remember, there's a method to, first of all, repair everything and to maintain it in a good state. And that is only accomplished, though, ultimately by divine guidance and favor and aid and cosmic like guidance and God's instruction and his perfect method of accompanying us through life and then helping us where and when it's necessary. And that always happens. Okay. So, all right, hold on a second. So as I showed you earlier, there's a self-mastery calendar where there's a page for the day today. So like, you see all of this around me here, the heavens and the earth plane, the mountains, the sky, the fields, the hills, the humans, the animals, the plants, myself, how I feel, what's going on, etc., all this stuff. None of this is in any way, shape, or form happening randomly or by any chance or like anything that could be categorized as non-systematically perfect. If you can see clearly, and you should. And I think that you are, because you're hearing what I'm saying and I'm telling you the truth. So one of the things that you, dear viewers, guests, friends, family members, really should consider and actually try is take the knowledge and the theory and the working model of what I'm saying and see if it applies in your life. Now, essentially, there's a book called Self-Mastery and Fate with the Cycles of Life. There's a free PDF, and I intend to post the link in the description of this video. You should take your time, read and study the book, and see if the system that is presented in that book actually applies to your life. Try looking at what happened to your life in retrospect and honestly and detailedly comparing it with and using the system that's presented in the book to see like whether or not it's actually true. What I'm suggesting here is almost like saying, okay, so like there's a full moon right now, right? And the moon calendar says there's a full moon. So check it, and it turns out that that moon calendar is correct because there is a full moon. The information provided is true and verified by what happens in creation. Okay, now, so we're talking about the subject and the theme of this vlog within the series of, self-mastery at work, actually working and mastering your life and your good destiny right now, right? Because it's constantly being produced by your actions and what you do. The subject matter at hand still is how we have to practice and routinely practice actually seeing clearly, like taking a step, a safe step above and beyond, away from things and looking at them neutrally and observing and going into like a neutral, intelligent, wise, circumspect, observational mode, and while being receptive to divine inspiration or what the holy breath is called speaking to you, or God communicating to you, the cosmic mind, right, communicating to you, or just simply divine inspiration and guidance being communicated to you from within your heart and mind, right? So that what goes on is that you make the right decisions as you go. Now, if you can do this, and it's possible, but one has to practice a little bit of inner calm, like take a deep breath and just neutrally observe for a second. Don't get too, identified with what's going on. Take a neutral moment and look at it from above and go, okay, right, I see. The life cycles are like this. That's why this is this. Everything that humans do is governed by the life cycles, because the life cycles are what have an effect on the psyche, the intellect, and everything that goes on in earth, human, and life activity. So I know why this is happening. I know what to do now. I know what not to do. And as long as you sort of stick to this wise, prudent path, right? Like, listen, some of you might ask and say, hey, Ross, what are you talking about? Show me how this works. Well, listen, I will show you right now. I'm sitting here on a bench on a hilltop by myself where there is almost nobody for very good reasons. I am not accepting any phone calls right now on the phone that I'm holding for very good reasons. I am not associating or communicating with anybody who is physically present right now, except in the case of some emergency or whatever. In other words, what I am doing right now, even today, right now, on a Friday afternoon at 2:15, right, is because of the fact that I know what life cycles I'm in, what daily period of the cycles of life it is right now, and what lunar units are going on right now, and thus what the results and the long-term results, even lifelong, as with all things from small to great, right? And what the life cycles of the things that can be created right now will be like. Example. Watch closely. Self-mastery is as simple as this. I will show it to you again. Because listen, this is something worthy of practicing and repeating and even re-repeating. Look, right about now, and all of you watching this, you should follow along and implement this in your life. The first step, right, to self-mastery is exactly the following action. Watch. It's this. You have to check, like right now, got to check and see what life cycles are we in. You see this here? This is a self-mastery calendar. This is a calendar of a wise man of God, without a vow, God willing, and so should you. This thing right here that you're seeing is a calendar page for the day. So now, while I'm out in the field, successfully winning, thank God, from time to time, and as you may notice here, every 3 hours or so, because look, what is this here? 3:49 a.m., 6:49 a.m. High tide, right? That's a short lunar unit right there. So like, what time is it right now? Let's look at the watch. See the watch? It says it's 2:18 p.m. Okay. So the daily period is a period of E right now on a Friday afternoon from 1:42 p.m. to 5:08 p.m. on Fridays. It's an E period. It's good for scientific pursuits. It's not good for socializing. And there's a lot more to it, yet read all about it in due season in the book, okay? Well, first of all, you've got the short lunar unit, okay? That's the daily First of all, you got the daily period of the cycles of life. Right now, it's an E period. So we're like in the afternoon on this Friday, right? Somewhere here, just before the evening. Okay. Then, what we have up here are the short lunar units that are 3 hours in length. These are each the tides, both the 2 high tides today and the 2 low tides today. Because there's a 3-hour alternating lunar unit that constantly changes between right now negative and then positive right here. And 3 hours before a high tide, it's a positive short lunar unit. 3 hours before a low tide, it's a positive short lunar unit. Okay. For the 3.5 days that we're in right now, it's actually a negative 3.5 day lunar unit till this evening. So now what you have is a combination of a negative lunar unit that's short of 3 hours that we're in right now for another 2 hours, okay? While till this evening, till we enter in the next 3.5 day positive lunar unit, that positive short combined with the negative long gives a neutral. So there's a neutral right there, right? We're just before this time mark today where it's neutral. Right now it's negative. So what is that? Negative lunar unit, both long and short. I think I explained it to you. I hope that this is legible and comprehensible to you human beings. What's going on is that today at 4:25 p.m. till 7:25 p.m. today, you've got a 3-hour positive short lunar unit because there's a high tide there at 7:25. 3 hours before a high tide, you have a positive short lunar unit. Now, at 5:47 p.m. today, we enter into a 3.5 day positive long lunar unit. But right now, we're still in the negative 3.5 day long lunar unit. So you combine the negative long with the positive short, and that positive short for another 2 hours or so literally gives us a neutral lunar unit for the next 3 hours. So now at this time, to know that for the next 2 hours, basically, in 5 minutes or something, we are in a neutral lunar unit. Now, why is this important? I'm going to go into detail on this because it is important. Well, what's going on is that the energy, the energetic state that, let's say, from here to there for about another 300 miles, and that way a couple hundred, and that way a couple hundred, this geographical area around me, at minimum, though there are varying degrees of accuracy based on your proximity to the actual maritime port and the tidometer, wherefrom you have the data for your tide chart, this area of the world that we're in, because of the data that we have from a tide chart, from a nearest maritime port that happens to be about 225 clicks south of here, we know that because of how the tides are there, that because we are close to there, and that's the most accurate and the nearest reading station that we have to attain data in the form of the tides, when they're high and when they're low, and that actually showing us, and is actually showing us what the short lunar units are, because the short lunar units have an effect on what produces or actually produce the tides. So the reason why I have this data mapped out and I monitor it every 3 hours during the day, ideally, is because right now, the energetic state that the world around us, let's say within 1,000-kilometer radius, or like a 300-mile radius, like all around or something like that, is essentially, it's double negative. Because it's a negative short lunar unit and a negative long one still. So what that gives us is this. It's a very important thing to pay attention to and watch and accurately map and monitor and utilize to your advantage. In other words, basically, you've got energetically feminine negative energy that is more of a resting type, a resting and a reposing and a calm, like a resting type. And then you have a neutral state that is neither masculine nor feminine energetically, that is more neutral. Like you ask somebody a question and they sort of say, They don't say yes, no. It's like it's the same thing that goes on. You can watch this and see if it's true. Then you've got positive, energetically masculine energy that is life-giving, increasing, and building up. That's like the energy, that's like the day and the time when a house gets built. Whereas on another day, it's not as fast. Well, those are the lunar units, and they are absolutely clearly visible, and this is true science. And you can see the truth for yourself if you honestly do your own honest research. You will see that I'm correct. It's science, life science, okay? So now, why is it important to monitor the lunar units? Why should I be sitting here on a bench right now while I could be thinking about this, that, and the next thing? Why am I thinking about the fact that we're in a double negative lunar unit for another 2 hours? Well, because knowing what state so say, in a 300-mile radius all around me, something like that. And listen, if we go into the details of the details, the closer you are to an actual maritime port with a tidometer that gives you tide chart readings, the closer you are, the more accurate it is. But generally, what you'll see is that even if it's 1,000 miles away, the nearest place at the ocean where there's a tidometer and there are tides that are legible on a tide chart, it does show you what the lunar units are doing even near where you are to a highly accurate degree. I've got videos about this subject. We're getting into something called tidal potential here. Tidal potential is said to be generated by the moon or something like that. Well, tidal potential exists on land and at the ocean. But the reason why it's important and the reason why it's interesting is because of the following fact. And that is that life is cyclical. There are cycles of life, 9 different ones that are relevant to us as humans all the time. And 2 of those, and 2 of the most important ones that determine basically like positive, neutral, or negative, generally speaking, in all types and shapes and forms, male, female, yes, no, up, down, all this stuff is actually the lunar units with their either double negative, neutral, positive, or double positive nature, basically, and the time frames wherein these exist and the things that happen in Earth, human, and life activity in these time frames. So what I was getting at is that if I know what lunar units we're in right now, I know what the polarity is that has an effect, let's say 300, 400 mile radius around me, 250 miles around me, everywhere, generally speaking, safely. I know what energetic state the universe is in, Earth, human, and life activity is in. Then guess what happens? I can actually know for a certain time, like right now, for the next 2 hours, it's double negative. That's why I'm sitting on a bench right now, not up and running around, right? It's like a resting kind of a feeling and mode. I can know for a fact how things in life are programmed to be in terms of the polarity of negative, resting, not active, increasing, resting, and like calm. Why is this important? Because look, if you monitor the cycles of life like we do, and so should you, right? Then you have a map that is legible in linear time in terms of the life cycles, like on the page I just showed you, with the tides, what time they're high, what time they're low, what time the new moon is, what time the full moon is, whether we're in a positive or a negative 3.5 day lunar unit right now. You literally have a map that is legible in linear time. Right now, I can pull it up and see that shows you what the energetic state of the heavens, earth plane in this area and earth, human, and life activity is within yourself, around you, etc. And why is that important? Because based on the way that the cycles of life are right now, and it's particularly what the lunar units are, whether there's a double negative, a neutral, a positive, or a double positive state right now that results of and from the combination of the long and the short lunar unit that you're in, you basically have something that is the ability to foresee or to actually know how things are programmed energetically in creation for a certain time frame, like for the next 2 hours. And based on knowing what energetic state, earth, human, and life activity, the earth plane, the world, and the universe around you, let's say 200 mile, 300 mile radius, etc., approximately, we can know what the reaction to an action will be. And that also includes what our actions will actually be based on how things are pitched right now energetically, like even why I feel how I feel. Do I feel like getting up and running and doing push-ups right now. No, I feel like sitting on a bench now for an hour or two. That's what I'm doing. So we know why things are how they are because of the energetic state being visibly intelligible and legible to us based on the lunar units that we're mapping. And then, because of that, first of all, I know how things are. I know how things will be based on what I do. So like along the lines of human intercommunications and stuff and interactions, I can already know that, okay, if I ask this now, I'm probably going to get a no, or there'll be resistance. But if I ask this later, I will probably get a yes, and there will be a support. And it's just like that. It's the case with all of this, in that what goes on between humans right now is because of the life cycles that you are in right now, and the life cycles that the other person is in right now, and because of the life cycles along the lines of and directly actually including the short and the long lunar units that are in effect where you are geographically and where the other person is geographically, and so on and so forth. So now, what is the benefit of all this, and why would you even think about this stuff like I am? Well, because, for example, if I have to do something, there's a time to do it when it will work, and it will work very good. And there's another time, generally speaking, though there's a lot of bandwidth between this, but there's a time and a place for everything on earth and under heaven. And there's a particularly good time for every particular thing, and there's a particularly bad time for every particular thing. Knowing the difference equals the ability to accomplish the right things at the right time, generally speaking, as much as possible and increasingly, and therefore constantly being sustainably healthy, wealthy, and very prosperous. That is what goes on. So now look at this for a second. Let's say there's something that has to be accomplished that's, a good, legitimate thing. More money, more health, some solution, a victory here, a victory there, something like that, whatever it is. Well, there's a time and a place where and when and by way of, there are actually numerous times when things can be accomplished that will make them work. And they will also work very good. But there's another time when it won't work. And this is why you literally see an example of this in the world. This is why there are varying degrees of prosperity, health, wealth, and overall goodness in human existence visible, though it all still can be improved and changed, right? It's like nothing is permanent, other than that everything is changeable and can be changed very good. So it's like the idea of destiny, right? That you have a destiny that is unalterable. It's false, because you can change things. So the good news is you can change things in your life right now for the better. All you have to do is be a little bit wise and prudent. If you're watching this video till now, you're on the way to doing that, and it will be good with you because you now know how life works to a very high degree, and you will be able to make it work very good for yourself, and that's how it's supposed to be. So, listen, realistically, from a plain, simple perspective, as a human being, right, I have things that have to be accomplished, right? I have some objectives that are legit. So do you, so do we all. Well, I know when they can be accomplished, I can accomplish them. And moreover, I can accomplish them with full divine support. This thing that I'm talking about is no different than a man standing at a beach who knows when the tide goes out and when the tide comes in. And this man launches his boat when the tide goes out, gets carried out safely to go fish, right? and then safely comes in and lands on the beach again when the tide came in. It's the exact same system. It is the exact same logic, just more detailed. And what I'm telling you is absolutely true, and it is true to the point where you realize that, and it can be a little bit terrible because you actually know that this is really how it is. So it requires something like, with great power comes great responsibility. It requires a little bit of honest self-discipline and legitimate aspiration by you, and the ability to actually have a good grip on yourself and to be able to force yourself a little tiny bit here and there, even going against the urges of the physical existence, or even things like, what could be classified as laziness, or even sometimes when you're tired. Look, sometimes there's a time, and there is a time oftentimes, when you have to take care of something because you know that this is the time that it will work. And if you know that it's workable, you gotta make it work at that time. But listen, the good news is that with all of this, you're only looking at 3-hour, 25-minute time frames where you might have to force yourself to do something. Literally, listen, if I were to be honest with you all, it is very easy and agreeable in life, especially divinely protected and provided for and guided. The only thing that's difficult, and the only thing that can be problematic in life, the only thing where there is any potential for any danger or anything that's bad, basically speaking, is only based on something like lack of knowledge or non-self-discipline or foolishness, or even like giving way to laziness. I'll explain. On a regular basis, you have to structure your day. You have to force yourself to turn off the phone, the TV, and whatever lights there are, in the evening, so that you can rest, so that your circadian rhythm is okay. Because if you have to get up the next day and there is an opportune moment, there's a window of opportunity, folks, the next day at 8 a.m., and you know that you have to do this at that time because that's the time for it and it will work, and it has before, and you know that's how it is, then you cannot be dishonest with yourself. You have to force yourself to have a little discipline. Listen, this discipline, though, is easy. And it's like, really, the difference between miracle and disaster in the long term and in all things in life is really like this. Can you force yourself, if you have to get up in the AM, even if you're a little bit tired, and take care of something within a 3-hour, 25-minute window at the maximum? It might even only be a couple minutes or something, but there's something that has to be taken care of in a certain window of opportunity, in a certain daily period. Like the next day, you're tired, you have to get up. Well, that's because within these 3-hour, 25-minute windows of the daily periods of the cycles of life, there's certain things possible. You need these things to happen. You have to force yourself to make them happen. And then, a couple hours later, or even shortly thereafter, if you have to, you can rest and recover. So there's always a way to accomplish what you have to and what is the best for you. It's just that sometimes you do have to give yourself an extra kind of a ruck of extra divine drive from within, and you're stronger than you may think. My dad used to tell me this. We were talking once, and I told him I got to get 9 hours of rest at minimum. And then he said, when I was your age, I went on for days. I'm like, what? How did you go on for days on end? Like traveling and stuff like this. Well, sure enough, he was right. What I'm saying is that you can go much farther than you even think you ever could. But it's important to be prudent, because if you're prudent, then you can go the farthest and the best and the safest and the most sustainably victorious. That is a major important point to remember. Because see, people can push themselves to the limit, right? I can go the extra mile. I can go the extra 1,000,000 miles if I have to. I know how. But you have to do it safely. And it may not even be necessary. I'm just telling you all this because, if you're properly prepared for anything that can happen in life, then guess what? You're pretty much good to go. And that's how it is. That's how it's supposed to be, because victory is ours and that's it. That's the only option. And we do have that. And we hold that. Thank God Almighty. Now, so should you. The thing is, probably the most important, the only thing that can be hard a little bit in life, and what really makes the difference between, miracle and catastrophe potentially, though these things don't happen right away either. That what's going to be a miracle starts very small. An idea, a word, a deed, an action, and a result. And same thing with a disaster. It doesn't just happen randomly. There's safety, and there's eternal safety with wise, prudent, circumspect living, okay? And self-discipline. What was I saying? I was just saying right now, hold on a second. What I was saying was that, the only thing about life that can be challenging is just that you've got to kind of force yourself and have mastery over the urges of the physical existence. So I feel like eating this, but I know I shouldn't eat this because if I do that, I have to go to bed and rest so that I'm fit in the AM so I can accomplish these things. Well, I'm going to have to refrain from doing that. I just can't drink that cup of coffee even though I'd like to, because I got to get up the next day and I have to rest for 9 hours. And if I do that at 6 p.m., it's not going to work. So you really have to be honest with yourself and be truthful and be a little bit aggressive with yourself at times safely to make yourself make the decision that is right, because it's wise and it's in your best possible, in accordance with your best possible strategy. So what I'm saying is, it's almost like you have to make small compromises sometimes. That's all. And even this is interesting. With wisdom, you can do that. With wisdom, you can actually even live easily and even master your life easily, because there's always divine support. And technically speaking, because of how life is cyclical and how there's a particular time and a place for everything under heaven, there's actually always a particular time where divine providence or the universe and the source of life is giving something to make life able to produce this or accomplish this. So there's always some type of a time when it's a time for a certain thing where if you work on that thing or you rest even at that time, it just works out the best. This is because of how life is cyclical and living in harmony with the cycles of life. So think about this. There is no insurmountable obstacle in life. There is nothing that can stop us. The only thing that could potentially stop us in any way, shape, or form, though that only starts very small, is ourselves. And what could be classified as kind of the laziness or the evil inclination, kind of the slothful or the lazy or the foolish or less wise kind of decisions. In other words, just make wisdom be your guide. Okay, God will provide. That's it. And with that and knowing that, guess what? It's you've just been prepared to live the best possible existence forever. I've just put this together in an hour now. It's in a nutshell. This video, if you actually read and study the book I'll post, God willing, and also, think about what I said and try it, you start to see that this is like being This is like a master course in life and how to master life. Like, there's nothing that can stop you. It's interesting. We might think, oh, this and that thing, this world event, maybe that's dangerous. Can that stop us? No. Nobody can stop us except ourselves. The only thing that can arrest your progress or stop you is yourself and anything that's classifiable as slothfulness, laziness, or even, it may be different from person to person, but we all have things that we have to work on where if we get neutral, honest, wise self-analysis and introspection and reflection from time to time, everything can be perfected with us, within us, and in our lives. But the key is that you got to constantly be circumspect as much as possible so that you actually see clearly. If you actually see clearly, right, it's like a pilot, right? He's flying through the fog, but he has these navigational instruments that actually show him there is no obstacle or anything in this air space. I can fly through this fog. I don't have to worry because I can still see through it all, okay? It's not even that bad in life generally. You can see through it all. You know why it's all going on. And then guess what? You don't have to worry anymore. You know why it is how it is and how it can be made better. And that's mastery. That's like winning, winning, winning as we go. That's permanent victory right there. And that's the truth. And I'm doing it right now. I know exactly how to manage all these different interactions that I have, whether it's at work, whether it's personal life, business life, this, that, anybody, anything, anywhere. I know how to manage it. I know how to operate as a magi, a seer, as a master of my life and destiny, and so should you. I'm actually prepared for anything that can happen so that I can make the right thing happen, and I make the right thing happen, and it works for the highest good. Even more so, more than just for my good, but for the best and the universally highest good overall, right? Like, this is actually something that this should be taught in universities and colleges and schools. Self-mastery is the most important discipline in life because it's part of the way, it's part of living a godly life, and it also enables you to actually live a godly life as it's commanded and thus have the good rewards, right? So how do you know that what I'm saying is true? Because you try it at home safely and it works. The reason why I report this and I claim this and I do this and I vlog about this is because this is what I do and it works. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't working. I wouldn't be talking about this if it wasn't true. I wouldn't have the time for that. But because of what I experienced and the benefits that I received from the Creator and wisdom and from family and friends and parents and whatever good sources, thank God Almighty, I have so much that I can share it and provide so much good for everybody. It's in the form of wisdom, wise communications, right? You would be surprised at how much more valuable wisdom is, immeasurably valuable, eternally valuable actually, compared to anything the world can produce. Remember King Solomon, double honors, who basically, I think, so he had a dream or something, and apparently he asked the Creator for wisdom to rule responsibly and righteously, and then God gave him wisdom, and then God also, said, hey, because you asked for wisdom, I've just given you all these other good things too, like health and wealth and victory. And so approximately quoting, not exactly quoting, look it up yourself. What I'm saying is that the beginning of wisdom is a fear of God. Okay. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Okay. And wisdom is a principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all that getting, get understanding, right? So now you've got something that's true wisdom now, even from this vlog, and you got to hold on to it and apply it practically in your life because it has to work, because your life has to be good. Everybody's life can actually be very good. It's universally possible and programmed like that. Whether or not it will be the case is based on the decisions you make with your divinely provided or God-given free will. So like, once again, I can do things now that I know will lead to good results, and I can do things now that I know will lead to other results. I have to force myself to do the right thing. You got to be honest with yourself. It's no different than somebody who's like standing at the edge of a cliff, and it's like, you can either take a step back, safety first, or let's see, and get too close. No, safety first. Be prudent, be circumspect, choose life, do the right thing. You will learn in due season and with time, and in time, in good time, in all in good season, you'll learn how to live, how to make the best decisions, and you will also, we're permanently guided and instructed by the Creator and given additional wisdom. So it's like your intuition with the Creator, who is the most intelligent and the ultimate teacher. That goes on and on, right? Divine inspiration, a cosmic impulse. What they call the Holy Breath or the Holy Spirit, communicating to you, that's the ultimate source of instruction, comfort, teaching, guidance, protection, etc., etc.